Last point I want to talk about is the roadmap to making more disciples via church marketing. There are lots of ways to make disciples who make disciples. Obviously, you have to equip your church. Okay? You can't just run advertisements and have people come to your church and expect them to stay. You have to cast the vision and properly equip your church to make disciples, to invite people themselves, to speak properly of Jesus, to represent Jesus in the community. And just like church planting requires a roadmap, you very rarely, if ever, can people say, I'm going to plant a church. We're going to start meeting at my house tomorrow, and people come and fill the church. Okay? It requires a roadmap. Unfortunately, it requires a lot of bureaucratic red tape. I understand that. And the same thing goes with planting your church in the minds of your community. You need a roadmap. When you plant a church, you have to decide, okay, who is God calling us to serve? What area do we need to be in? What kind of missions work can we do? What kind of launch meetings do we need to have? What kind of team do we need to have? What location are we going to have? What kind of finances do we need to have ready? What kind of paperwork do we need to submit? What kind of financials do we need? Same thing is true with planting your church in the minds of your community. What's our message? What do we need to say? What do we want people to do? What kind of transformation does God have in store for them? And so real quick, I'm going to run through our roadmap. We call it the Definitive Church Marketing Method. And you can go to navachurchmarketing.com and see what that looks like. I've also got a checklist for you at the end of this, or it's down in the description if you want to just look at it real quick. BetterKnownChecklist.com, by the way. We just updated the URL there. The first thing you need to answer is your foundation. Who are you? Okay? If you ask 100 people, even in your church, but let's just say your community. If you ask 100 people, what is a church? You're going to get 117 different answers. You cannot assume that because your name is First Baptist or because your name is Grace or because your name is House of Prayer, people will know what makes you unique. You have to properly communicate that. So the first step is the foundation is, who are you? How do you communicate who you are? Who are you equipped to serve? What do they need? What are they suffering? What are their pain points? How can God answer them? How can God transform them? How does God meet them? Where does God meet them? Where do you meet them? What do you want them to do? If they're not ready to make that decision, what do you want them to do instead? What happens when they engage with your church, and what happens when they don't? This is the questions that we ask and answer and assemble for you when you work with us. It's very similar to, or if it sounds familiar, it's the Story Brand framework. But then not only that, how do you want to be remembered? That's your visual mark, your identity. What kind of language do you use? And then once you know your foundation, then you focus on discoverability. You're not ready to go out and broadcast your message to everyone. You've got to make sure it's working for the people that at least know they need something like what you have. And so from there, you focus on discoverability, your website. What is the one thing your website should do? The reason why websites don't work and the reason why you can redesign your website and it still doesn't work is because your website's trying to do 10 different things. You're trying to cut your knife with you're trying to cut your steak with a Swiss Army knife instead of an actual steak knife that's meant to cut a steak. And so you're trying to get your website to do everything. No, I'm telling you, your website just needs to do one thing and one thing well. And if it does that one thing well, you will have new discipleship opportunities open up. Because people who are searching for churches find your site, and instead of being bombarded by decisions to make, they get one simple thing. You in or you out. Whatever that one thing is. Might be watch a video, might be learn more, plan a visit. I'm not saying it can't do anything else, but it should do one thing really well, instead of a bunch of things mediocre. And then not only that, your search engine optimization. When people Google a church near you, do you even show up? If people search your church, do you even show up? And then reviews. What are people saying about you online? Because even if people find your church on Google, are there reviews that showcase what makes your church unique, the transformation that God's doing in your church? Or does it just say, great church, great preaching, friendly pastor? Everyone knows the pastor's wife wrote that. So I'm going to go to the next church. Then you maximize attention. Then you say, we know who we are. We know what's communicating to people who are at least looking for a church. Now we can go out and share this with people who don't even know they need a church, who don't even know they need Jesus. That's when you bring in forms like the Google Ad Grant, Facebook ads, public relations, going on podcasts, press releases. Because then you have an opportunities to introduce yourself and introduce Jesus to people who don't even know they don't know you. Because if you just sit here continuing to do the same thing, even just updating your website, spending thousands of dollars on your website, the only people that are going to see it is people that already know you or people that already know they need a church, which are probably just more churched people. If you really want to make more disciples, you've got to get in front of people who don't even know they don't know you, who don't even understand who Jesus really is, and who don't even understand the impact of their sin that has on their lives. This is where true discipleship opportunities are opened up because of church marketing. Instead of sitting around fiddling our thumbs, preaching another message to the same crowd, we can actually have new impacts on new people and grow the kingdom. Hey, thanks for the thumbs up on YouTube or Facebook. This is where real discipleship opportunities open up because of church marketing, because you're getting outside of your circle and you're sharing Christ with people that he's calling to him, but also maybe not at that moment, but eventually when he does call them, they'll already know you, so then they can engage with you.